So welcome guys to the UIUX Design Bootcamp. It's meant to be our second bootcamp at NDZ, that is No Distraction Zone. So we hope with this UIUX Design Bootcamp, you're able to get a fundamental knowledge of UI design and also UX design. So the reason why we call it fundamentals is because fundamentals includes the basics and also a little bit of advanced concepts when it comes to any particular field. So if you are already used to maybe you're already a UI UX designer, but you want to maybe get one or two insights, this bootcamp is also ideal for you. And even if you're an expert, you can also learn one or two. But our target audience here is they are mostly beginners. So we are going to tackle the beginner concepts at this early stage of the bootcamp. So for this week, that is today, we are going to tackle the basics of UIUX design. So the class topics are going to include the basics. Like I said, we are going to talk about the UI design concepts, what it's all about. We're also going to tackle UX design, that is user experience. So to go back to UI design, it means user interface. But I don't want you guys to get boggled up with any complex word or concepts. So just know it as UI design, and then we're going to talk about UX design, and then we're going to go ahead to get a first assignment for the bootcamp. So talking about the basics, we're going to look at interface design as an art. That is, what is interface design? We are going to look at colors. We're going to look at typography, and also we are going to talk about the relationship between UI UX design. So interface design is art. Why do I say that? It is like painting a picture with boxes and colors. I'm going to demonstrate that, but I want you to just picture what a box looks like. In the real world, you're going to see a box as something that has like about 6 sides or 8 sides. But in the user interface world, that is in the digital world, you're going to be seeing something that has just about 4 sides, just the top and bottom, and then the left and right. That's what you consider as a box online. And then we consider user interface as a combination of multiple boxes and colors. So we use these boxes and colors to express feelings and ideas. So you're going to creatively combine them together to express different types of feeling, depending on how you want the user to interact with that particular interface. So an interface is meant to be beautiful. That's what being creative is all about. But at the same time, you want an interface to be useful. That is, you want people that will be interacting with the interface to find it valuable, to find it easy to use. So it's a very tricky kind of like skill to have, because when you go on a site like Dribble, you see tons of beautiful designs, like designs that are like out of the box. But the problem with many of these designs are many of them are not useful. They are not like accessible. Most users are not able to use those kind of sites because of their complex interaction, complex animation, and the likes. But it doesn't change the fact that it's always very good to like show your creative side so that people can see and clients can see how well you can bring your ideas to life. So look at this picture. You can see it's just boxes. You can see a box here. Now a box can be a rectangle, it can be whatever length you want. It can just be a small where the length is going to be much more longer than the breadth. It is still a box, right? So you have a box here, there's a box here, a box here, a box here, and they are full of colors. Now you can see just having a box and color, it looks like an art, right? You can still go ahead to add more boxes inside those boxes, right? So this contrast that you can see here is making it look like an artistry, something going on here. You understand? So this is how you like combine different boxes to form an interface. So, and what do I mean by interface? Is basically what you see when you maybe load a website, what you see when you maybe load a mobile app, even your wristwatch, your Apple wristwatch. What you see when you are trying to like navigate around is also called an interface. Your remote, what you press on your remote is also called an interface. So it is what you interact with. That's what's called an interface. But for UI design, it's more of a digital interface. So we also look at colors. Colors is one of the fundamental things you need to understand if you want to be a UI UX designer. So they are like the spice of design. They add flavor and personality to everything they touch. So when you look at this slide itself, it's just black text on a white background, right? But it is not enough. You want to, add some, something that will make it look vibrant in a way. So colors are able to like grab our attention. They're able to set the mood and even help us understand things better. You understand? So that's why, if you want to actually be a good designer, you start with a blank slate. You have a blank canvas with just white background. And then you start with something like black, something that will make it look very bland and not so interesting, so that you can be able to like, flesh out the user interface, how everything is going to flow. And then you can now go ahead to start adding colors. So it is a process you can take if you want to actually not fantasize too much on what you've created. Because take it from me, from my experience as a UI UX designer, when you start designing right from scratch with the colors and everything, you tend to fantasize too much because it starts being beautiful from the start. So you want everything to be a bit boring, just black and white, and then you can go ahead to now add the flavor, like I said. So when you look at this kind of color, this is red color, obviously, right? What is the emotion that's red ignites in you? I want you guys to like talk to me in the comments, in the chats. What kind of emotion do you get when you look at the red color? You guys should talk to me. What kind of emotion do you get? Yeah, Jessica says danger. What else do you feel when you see the red color? Because one thing about color is not just about uh it doesn't have just one specific meaning. It is contextual in many ways. It is local. When you go to somewhere like China, red means a different thing. When it comes to Nigeria, red means something else, right? When you go to some other part of the world, red means different things. You know, let me tell you guys a quick story about sociology of color. Yeah, courage, fierce, bold, love, danger. Yes, that's good. These are really good uh uh emotions that they actually ignite. So back to what I was saying, there's something about sociology of color, right? Uh Back then in Africa, Africans, we tend to be a bit more fearful when it comes to adventures and trying things out. You understand? So based on like some kind of like a research, it's known that Africans tend to associate red with hotness, something that is hot. So that is why when you see um the average African man, when they want to take a drug for, let's say, malaria or something, they prefer to take drug that contains like red color. That's why you see some capsule, they have like red color around them. Because we believe that taking something that has red color around it is going to help you battle, that kind of hot color. You understand? Sorry, the hot feeling you are feeling at a particular moment. So this same African also believe that when you take something like that is blue in color, it's also used to like tackle something like cold. So you can see that this kind of color can be contextual. So yeah, Rokoya says spicy, charming, danger. That's good. Courage, power. Yeah, these are like emotions that red, ignites. So looking at green, let's look at green. What color do you think green ignites? Sorry, what kind of emotions do you think green ignites? Yeah, earth. That's good. Nature, yes. These are really interesting, approach. Yes, growth, life, plants. Yeah. So you can see that from just looking at these colors, you're able to, imagine what they should represent and how you as a person will interact with them. So whenever a client comes to meet you and be like, we are a sustainability company, we try to like, make sure that, we help the world, we don't, we reduce the waste in oceans and all like that. You can imagine that that kind of brand would do well with a green color because they're all about earth, they're all about life. You understand? So that helps shape your approach as a designer. You understand? Now you have a color like blue. What kind of emotion do you think blue ignites? Yeah, cool sensation. Calmness. Yeah, exactly. Masculinity. Yeah. Yeah, chill vibes, style, freedom. Now I can see you guys are really nailing all these emotions, and it's just good to see. Freedom. These are like the things that when you go to a restaurant, you see um like a restaurant wants to like use something like red, orange because they want to use colors that will stimulate your appetite. Hardly would you go to any restaurant and see like color blue all around because it is not really that kind of like color you would want to see. You understand in such an environment. So colors are usually very contextual. Now I want you guys to pay attention to the colors I've shown you guys so far. That is red, green, and blue. And these are like the primary colors when it comes to the physics side of things. You understand? They are called primary colors. Normally, you see maybe uh, red, yellow, and blue. Yeah, some will say they're like primary colors. But when it comes to the interface design, red, green, and blue, they are like the primary colors. Now you can combine these colors in different shades to get different types of colors, to get different secondary colors. So that's for the RGB colors, right? Now we have the monochromatic colors. These are like the black and white colors. Now you can have black in multiple shades. White is white, you understand? But black can be in multiple shades because white is a shade of black. If you guys don't know, because when you mix um white with black, at some point, black becomes white at some point, right? When you look at the background, you can see it's gray. It is almost a shade of black. It's almost a shade of black. So back to the RGB, they combine multiple of these colors to give birth to secondary colors and different types of colors that you would want to use in your design. So let's quickly go to our browser and check out some things on the color mixing. Because as a UI designer, you are not an artist. You are not a regular canvas artist where you probably make colors in real life. What you are doing is you are dealing with. All right, so now you're looking at a color mixer, right? This is more or less like a tool created by somebody just to like help designers like you. So you can see you have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and I think magenta or something. So you can remove all these colors. I just want to show you guys, how you can, mix colors, like to see, how they look. Now you have red here, right? You can add, let's say, you can add blue, right? You can also add green. Let's see what kind of color it gives us. So I'm going to go ahead to add the red to the main color here. Add blue to it. You can see it's turning purple. Then add this green. So this is because the kind of shade of red green and blue I'm using, they are not the pure colors. So there is a particular color, this particular RGB color for red. Now, you can go ahead to play around this kind of tool to test out different color combinations that you can use in your design. You understand? So there are three things you want to pay attention to. There is something called the X value. Now, the X code is more or less like the it denotes what's range of particular color you're actually working with. Now, the X code, that is the color code, is going to be about 6 in numbers. The first two here, when you look at this 666 E5A, the first two here, let me go ahead to bring up my notation. So you can see this code here. The first two here is for the red. The second two here, this 6E, is for the green. The 5A here is for the blue. So a combination of them, that's how you're able to like get different combination of colors when it comes to the interface. Now, you also have the same thing for the RGB here. This 102 here is for the red. This one is for the green, and this one is for the blue. This HSL means hue, saturation, and lightness. Let me try to go back. When you look at this pop-up here, you can see H, that is the hue itself. If I move this thing around, you can see that the hue is almost still the same because it's still around the green. But if I move this palette here, you can see this hue here. This hue means the color itself. You can see the hue is changing, right? You can see the hue is changing. Right, so you can see the hue is changing here. As I change it, now this is the current hue. You can see still for this particular same color, but the saturation changes. Now, saturation means how much something fades. You know, when you have like a blue color or a red color, you can see this particular one is a bit brighter. You can see the saturation is 100 here. You can see the lightness is about 50. So hue, saturation, and lightness. When I bring it down here, you can see the saturation reduces. You can see the saturation of this particular color reduces because it goes from being a regular color and it starts fading out. You can see it starts fading up until black. So lightness is how light a color is. When you look at this green you have here, I want you guys to just, have an idea, because this thing has a lot of different angles to it. You know, you still have the CMYK and how colors are printed. Also how you can like create multiple shades of colors. So, but this is like the fundamentals of what you need to know basically. So look at this green here. This green is kind of light. It's more or less like light green. You understand? So you can say that this particular green is on the higher end of the lightness for the HSL, and then you can bring down this saturation to make it a bit much darker. You understand? So that's basically it when it comes to the X value, the RGB, and the HSL. They all still mean the same thing, but you can play around the HSL to get a different saturation and different lightness of a particular color. So you can go ahead to play around with this tool. They have different types of tools you can use. You have the color scheme builder, the gradient creator, color mixer. Different types of tools are really amazing that you can play around with. So let's go back to our slides and move on. Okay, moving on to typography. Now, we've talked about color, and now colors are like the spice of your UI design. They more or less like bring it to life from being boring to exciting, right? Typography are like the voice of your design. They are like what people read, because when you have like a blank page with just colors, it means nothing. It can be exciting, but people won't be able to like understand what the site is all about. So you need to add some text, and that text itself needs to be well designed. So good typography can make reading easy and enjoyable. you can go to some sites and see some very fancy fonts, that can look very beautiful at first glance. Then along the way, it gets hard to read because they are not, accessible in many ways. So we have different types of fonts. Keep in mind, typography is also the same thing as fonts. Let me write this here so that you guys can get what I mean. Fonts. So it's the same thing as fonts. Fonts means typography basically. But in UI design, you deal majorly with two types of fonts. That is the serif fonts, aka the formal fonts. Formal in the sense that there are some specific types of businesses, or let me say needs for serif fonts. Take for example your newspaper. When you're reading your newspaper, you see that the types of fonts that are used are usually kind of formal. And what makes a serif font is usually this stick that you see here. You can see this S here now. It has some sharp end here. You can see this L has some sharp thing coming out. This K has some sharp thing coming out here. These are the things that make a serif font serif. You can see this thing here. You can see this G here. You can see. So you can see this Y. You can see that it has some kind of like sharp end. But you can see the sans serif, on the other hand, is an informal font. They look cuter, they look nicer, they look easy on the eye. You can see they have like smooth edges. You can see they have like round, smooth edges. So you can easily identify a serif from a sans serif. You understand? So this is like the core basic of typography. When you're into something like logo design, then you can start looking at, okay, the spacing between the paragraphs, the spacing between each letter, because depending on how close these things are to each other, it actually impacts the experience, the reading experience itself. So let's take a look at a live version of that. So I want to show you guys a sample of a site that now this is type scale. So it is more or less like a site for you to see how different types are kind of like related in different ways. Now you have like a sample website here, right? And these are the kind of like different settings you can have for this particular site. This is the font name. Every font have their own name, and they're designed by some people that are very creative, and they're looking to just provide some fonts to the community. You have Inter fonts, you have Poppins, you have some very popular fonts that some designers like. Inter is a very popular one that I also like because it is so well designed. This font you are seeing here is Inter font. You can see here. Now, the weight of a font is how bold a font is. If I change the weight of this particular font to 100, you can see this text here. You can see how thin it is. You can see that it is almost invisible. If I change the font weight to 300, you can see it is getting more visible, right? If I change to 500, you can see to 900, the maximum. You can see how thick it is. That is called the weight. So the weight may basically means how heavy the font is. You understand? Now, when you look at the line height means the distance between this particular text here and the one below it. That's called the line height. So if I increase this line height to let's say 5, you can see the gap in between it. And this looks ugly because you don't want to go to a site where you will see this text and the next text is like too far below. You understand? It's not going to be enjoyable for you as a user. So that's why your line height should be about 1.2 to let's say 1.4 or 5. So 1.4 is like a good one. You can see 1.8. You can see this line height is still readable. Letter spacing means the spaces between the letter itself. If you talk about the font weight, that is how heavy the font is. The line height means the space between each line, that is each text. Take for instance, when you look at this paper page, take this text here. The space between each of this line of text is called the line height. So looking at the spacing means the spaces between U and N, this unlock here. So if I increase this one to, let's say 2, you can see the spaces between each letter is increased. So that's what you mean by letter spacing. So sometimes you just want to leave it alone because you don't want to like mess up with the spacing of the letter. But in case you want to make your text look stylish in a way, you can increase the letter spacing. The color is basically the color of the font. That's what you have there, right? You can change the color. The background means where the font is housed. So that's the background of the text itself. So you can change the background to whatever you want. You understand? So this is how you play with different types to see how it's going to look on the website itself. You understand? So before we leave, there's one thing you want to keep in mind. I'm going to talk about the design principles where you talk about hierarchy. Now, hierarchy means let's revert this change. They should have like an undo button here. Now, when you look at this site, you can see your digital transformation begins here. This is the core, this is the heading, right? And the one you have here is called the paragraph text. Now, this is basically hierarchy because one is the leader, right? And this one is like the follower. So obviously the leader should be like bigger and bolder, right? And the follower should be a bit like smaller and softer, right? And that's why we call them like this particular one is called H1, that is heading 1. You have this one H2. You can see this one is smaller than this one. It's called H2. You have H3, you have H4, H5, H6. And then you have paragraph text, and then you have small. You understand? So you get to explore different types of sizes. So here now you have the H1, here you have the paragraph text, and here you have the small text here, this one that is here. So depending on how you want to design the interface. So let's take, for instance, this PayPal page here. We can assume this one is the H1 because it is bigger than this text here. So this one here can be the small text, right? This PayPal is for everyone. It looks the same thing as this one, or this one looks bigger, right? This one looks the same size as this one's here. This one looks smaller, right? So you can see different, combination of sizes. That's how you let the user know which one is the heading and which one is below it. Now you can see safer and protected is the heading, and this text below it is the content of this particular heading. So let's not dwell too much on that because I'm still going to talk about that in the design principles section. So let's go back to our slide. But before we proceed, do you guys have any question? You can let me know in the comments before I continue. Why UI UX design? UI stands for user interface, like I've said. It deals with the look and feel of the digital products. While UX stands for user experience. That is, the user interface that you've designed, how is the user finding it? Is it relatable? Is it valuable? Is it useful? These are the questions that you consider when you are designing an interface, because you just don't want to design what you feel. You want to design what you think the user is going to find valuable, right? So that's basically the two differences. So as a UI designer, you also want to take some responsibility of a UX designer. Some people are just called UX designers. They don't work with Figma, which I'm still going to introduce you guys to. They don't work with tools like that. So they focus majorly on just the UX side of things, because UX design is kind of wide. There are a lot of different subcategories in UX design. But as a UX designer, you also want to have an idea of UI design so that you can play around those tools. But a UI designer wants to definitely know a lot about UX design, because they go hand in hand. They are like yin yang. You understand? So let me quickly show you an example of a site that nails it when it comes to UX. Take, for example, this PayPal. This site is basically it's just there. It's not so interesting. You have like just 2 or 3 combination of colors, which is just the blue and the purple and the very light blue. And then, there's nothing interesting going on. If I refresh the PayPal homepage, it's just static, no animation, nothing, right? And there we have a different site called Linear. Now, when you look at this particular web page, you can see it is very refined. It is polished. You can see some things going around this particular wireframe here. You can see some kind of like lightning bolts. So it is intricate when it comes to the approach. If I try to refresh, you can see the animation and the way they come. You can see this text. You can see the interaction. This is called user experience, because they can decide to just design the user interface without this fancy paparazzi and everything. You can see how everything is just moving around. This is called user experience. And this is what you want to also, infuse into your designs. You want the user to actually feel like they're interacting with something that feels real. You understand? So that's basically the difference between a user interface designer and also a UX designer. Also, keep in mind, being a UI designer doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, take full responsibility of UX design. You can go ahead to design amazing websites that don't need, a lot of fancy animations and the like. Because UX design is not just about, making things look, appealing and all. It's about functionality. It's about accessibility. It's about whether this thing is valuable or useful. That's just it. So you can have a site like this. Look at this Y Combinator news site. You can see it's so bare bone. It's almost like a static site where it's just a combination of headings and the URL and then some small text beneath it. That's just it. You see how boring this site looks, but it's getting the job done. I can tell you this site gets minimum of 1 million visitors every single day, I think. Yeah. So this site gets a lot of visitors and it is as boring as anything. An example is also Nairaland. When you go to Nairaland, Nairaland is not so interesting when it comes to the user interface. But at the end of the day, it is still getting the job done. Right? So let's go back to our slides. We've talked about UI UX design. We've talked about the basics of UI UX design. We've talked about colors, typography, and just how they interact and all. So keep in mind, these are like the basics. You still want to go deep into some of these topics, which we are going to talk about in our week 2 and also week 3. But we are going to take a dive on the specifics of UI design and also talk about UX design. So starting with UI design, we are going to look at the first one, which is boxes everywhere. It's just for you to have an idea of what why the internet is full of boxes. Every website you go to is all boxes. We are going to talk about design principles. We're also going to talk about atomic design methodology and also UI design tools. So one thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that the UI design tools, there are a lot of them, but for this particular class, I'm only going to show you guys just the Figma alone, just how Figma works in general, because I don't want you guys to feel overwhelmed in any way. So starting with UI design is all about boxes. Now, these boxes are also known as containers or frames. When you go on Figma, they are called frames, So you create a frame inside a frame, inside a frame, inside a frame. That's how you create a UI design. So they help structure the content and the visual hierarchy of your site. And also they can contain various elements such as texts, images, buttons, and forms. So let's go back to our browser to have an idea of what that means. So this is a site of TopTal. It's more or less like a talent site where you can go to hire talents, basically. So if let me refresh this just to be sure. So now what I mean by the internet is full of boxes is that every user interface you see online is all about different boxes. I have an extension here called Designer Tools. I'm going to link it in the resources section so that you guys can have an idea of what it does, and also you can use it in your various design projects. You can see the Designer Tools like fleshes out the different components of this particular site. When I unclick this Designer Tools, you see it's back. When I click it again, you see it's showing me that this particular section here. Let me unclick it so that you guys can see it. Let me use this tool here. So when you look at this nav bar here, you can see this thing is a box, right? Is a box. Now, inside of this box, you also have other boxes. You have a box here, right? You have a box here, right? You also have a box here. So let's keep working on that. You also have a box here, right? Now, here, you have a very big box. Apologies for my design. They are kind of like very awful and all. Or let me see whether we can use this one here. Second. Oh, it doesn't have square. That's why I use Miro for something like this. So I'm going to show you guys a Miro board so that you guys can be able to do something like this. But let's continue using our pencil. Seems this is not really effective. Okay, there's a box there. It's a box. All right, we have a box here, right? You have another box here, right? Now, inside of these two boxes, you have the image box, right? On this left side here, you have this revenue growth box. You have this 7-minute read box. You have this text box here. You have this one box here, right? You also have this that looks big. So you can see it is all boxes. They might look like just text, but you want to imagine them as boxes. That's how you come up with the ideas. You understand? That's how you come up with the ideas. So you can see they are all more or less like boxes. So one thing I want you guys to know, like pay attention to, is when you look at this menu section here, you can see I highlighted that it's a box, a big box, but there is a relationship between all of these boxes. You can see these boxes here. This menu here, top 3%, higher talent, why, clients, blog, and about us, is a combination of children boxes. So you can see them as children of that big box. So in web development, you can call this one a parent box, and then all these ones are inside of it. They are the children box. So the same thing with something like this one too. This by Shane Ford. You can see this one here is a big box. And then this by Shane Ford is a small box. This one small. This one small, right? And then this one is standing alone, right? This one, they're like almost together. you can see the reason why I'm spending a lot of time here is because you're going to be having something like this as an assignment. So you make sure to pay attention to this particular section. You can see now there's now a big box enveloping every one of them. Now there's now another box here too that is carrying them, that is boxing this one, and there's another big box that is boxing this one. Now you can see it is infinite. It is a box inside a box, inside a box, inside a box, until you get to the last thing that can no longer be divided anymore. You understand? You can see this particular text here now. You can't separate this particular text into any more box. So it is the last thing inside of that big box. So that's basically what I mean by the internet is full of boxes. When you check your mobile app, when you check any website, name it, it is all boxes. So let's quickly, do this together. Let's quickly look at this. Let's look at this newsletter page here. So when you look at this newsletter page, how many boxes do you think are in this newsletter page? Like, I just need like a rough estimate. How many boxes do you think is in this this newsletter page? Let me you guys should let me know in the comments. How many boxes do you think is there? Are you guys still with me?
Yes.
Okay, let me know in the chat. How many boxes do you think is in this newsletter page? Just give me a rough estimate. You can see 10, 10, 10, 5, 9. Okay. Okay. All right. So far, it seems our guesses are like between 4 to 10, 8. Okay. So let's quickly look at this and let's see the people who are like close to our estimates. All right. So when you go back, all right. So when you go back to draw here, and you have like a parent box that is enveloping the newsletter. That is the entire newsletter itself. The box we've already drawn here, and then you have another box inside of it. That is one box, right? You have another box here. That is the world class weekly. That's the heading, right? And then you have another box here. That's 3, right? You have another box here. That's 4. You have another one here. That's 5. You have another one inside of it. That's 6. You have another one here. That's 7. And you have another one here. And that's 8. So that means we have about 8 boxes inside of this newsletter. So that's to be divine judge. That was very close to the answer. So, but one thing you should keep in mind is that we can decide to eliminate these numbers of boxes, because if it is just going to be one element, like you have here now, this particular enter your email box, you can see it's just enter your email that's there. There is no need for there to be any box inside of it. It has to be just the element itself. So we can as well just remove this box inside of this enter your email, and also remove this get great contents. But we want to have a box there in case you are going to be adding some other elements inside of it. Then the box is going to be valuable there. So it can either be 6 or 8. So if you also call 6 or 5, yeah, you're almost close to the to the guests and also 10. So we are on track. So let's quickly look at Figma for a second. All right, so here's my Figma. Emmanuel, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right, awesome. So here we have the Figma screen, and then we can just, you guys can ignore anything you're seeing because it is not we are not yet at the Figma stage yet. So whatever I'm doing right now, you can just ignore it. It is not important for you to have an idea of what tool I'm using right now. So let's keep that in mind. So you have a box here. Like I said, they are called frames in UI design. You can see a frame here. It's called a frame. So inside of a frame, I can have another frame. I can give it another color. This frame can be another box. Right? I can bring this one down gently. Let me try to give this one a different color. I can have a different frame for, let's say the menu is a box, right? Let me give it a feel. Now, inside of this menu, I can have another box. I can say, okay, this one is my logo. Let me give it a feel. I can say this one is my menu. Then I can call this one my button. Let me reduce the size of this one. Right? I can continue. Let me center everything here. I can continue to keep on adding to it. I can decide to make a dynamic, to make it a bit more dynamic. I can say, okay, this particular one should just be the way it is. And then I can create another frame, let's say inside of it. Let me give this one a color too. Let me try to make this one a different shade. It's a little bit different. Now, you can see that just from having these different boxes, I'm able to like just sketch out what I think a website should look like. Now, I can now go ahead to add some different things into these different boxes here. So what I have here is called a wireframe. A wireframe that is more or less like a bare bone, a skeletal structure of a website. So now you can now go ahead to bring this to life. But when you have an idea, you can quickly come on something like this Figma to just sketch out different layouts to just see how it's going to look. But you're going to be using boxes for all this. So you cannot decide to take it a step forward to now maybe start adding shapes, like maybe circle. Maybe, okay, I want here to be like maybe one very big circle that will maybe show some particular thing on the site. I want this particular one. I want there to just be a big heading. The heading should be this big, and then the subheading should be this small, right? And say the subheading should be like this, and then you can say the button itself should be like this. You understand? So from doing this, you can have a visual idea of how all of this thing comes together when it comes to the balance, when it comes to the contrast, and how they interact with each other. You understand? So that's basically boxes in practice. We are still going to look at how you can, display this thing in a way that's going to look appealing to the eye of the user. So let's just continue before we get there. So that brings us to design principles. Like I said, design principles are like rules that help make things look good and work well. So we've talked about the boxes and how they relate with each other. So these principles are what are going to help you know what actually really fits with each other and how appealing they look. Let's go back to the browser again. Now there are like a lot of different principles when it comes to design, but there are there are common principles, because when you have the normal principles of design, they're like about 12 principles. You still have like Gestalt theory of design, and you have some other principles too. But these are like the ones that you want to like pay attention to. Now, the first principle of design here is unity and variety. Now, by unity, it means that when something are of the same color, in this particular one you have here now, and they are close to each other, you can say they are uniform, right? This one here, you have on the right side here, they are of different colors, but because they are close to each other, they are uniform. You understand? So they have some kind of like a uniform look and appeal. By going to Figma, you can actually get what I mean by that. Let's look at this. Let me create a new frame. You can either create a frame by dragging your mouse, or when you click on this frame here, you can come to these different frames. You have this one for phone, for tablet, for desktop, for presentation. So because I'm presenting, I need something that is big enough for me to use. So let's just use a frame. So let me take this particular circle here and bring it here, and let me make duplicates. If I bring what's it called, a rectangle there, let me know in the chat, is this still uniform? Let me know, guys, is this still uniform? Exactly. It is no longer uniform because you have circle and you have a rectangle. I'm sorry, a triangle. They are not uniform in any anymore, because it's a mixture of circle and a triangle. You understand? So, but when you have something like this, is this still uniform? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. What you can see here, like the circle of black and red, are they uniform? So yes, they are uniform because they are of the same size, but they are of different variety. You understand? So the color does not really matter. So what you look for uniformity is basically the size and the shape. All right, so let's move on. There is we have balance. So balance is more or less like a way you look at something. When you examine something, you can feel if that thing looks off. Especially if you're somebody that probably has maybe OCD, and OCD is more or less like a disorder where you kind of like can't let something be if something doesn't look perfect. So you can feel when something feels off. So you can see these circles here. They feel kind of like well aligned. You can see where's my stuff? Okay. You can see these circles here. They look very well aligned. Now, this is called a okay, just wait a moment before I go to something like that. Let's just continue so that I don't overcomplicate things. Here you can see they are well balanced. Now, this one now, it is not symmetrical. When something is symmetrical, it means the left and the right, they are of the same equal size. They are of the same thing. It is when something is something can be symmetrical and still be imperfectly symmetrical. That's when you have something like amoeba. Amoeba is not symmetrical, but you can still say it is imperfectly symmetrical because in the other side, they are still going to be like almost the same types of what's it called? Shape, but it is not symmetrical. But when you have something that is perfectly symmetrical, like a circle here, if I cut it enough, the left and the right side are going to be perfectly equal. So that's called being symmetrical. But here now, if I cut this thing in half, the left and the right is not the same, but it feels balanced in a way. Now, let me go to Figma so that you guys can have an idea of what balance means so that we don't dwell too much. Now, look at these circles here. If I take this red just a little bit off, you can see this does not feel balanced anymore. Why? Because this red looks out of place in this old design. It doesn't look like it is a member of these people here. We are still going to get to this particular principle, but you can see even if I tilt it in a way like here, well, let me see here. It doesn't feel very much, like this now. It feels balanced because it looks as though this thing is resting on top of this, right? If I tilt it just a little bit, it doesn't feel balanced anymore. It's like you're standing on one leg, understand? So that's how you want to like train your eyes to see what actually feels like, okay, this thing looks well balanced. If I have like a box here, and I have another box here, if I try to duplicate this one, this doesn't look balanced, right? But if I try to like bring it closer, you can see it looks balanced because it looks perfectly aligned, stacked on top of each other. You understand? So, but at the same time, you can also break some rules to maybe have something like this. You can see that they are almost beside each other, but it feels balanced, right? They are beside each other, but it feels balanced in a way. So that's basically balance in essence. It will be hard for me to like just let you guys see it, but it's when we start designing, that's when you get to see what I mean by balance there. So looking at this circle, you can see they look random, but at the same time, it feels like they are together in a way. So that's what we mean by balance. Hierarchy. I talked about hierarchy in our typography section. And what I mean by hierarchy is there is a different combination of elements. One is bold and big, one is small and thin. You understand? So you want to arrange them in a way that will feel like one is a senior and one is junior. So that's what you mean by hierarchy. You can see these boxes here. This stick here. There is no hierarchy. They look almost the same. But here now you have like a big black box and then you have one small thing here. It feels like one is the leader and one is the follower. Here it feels like this one is the leader and this one is the follower. You can see how they interact with each other. When you come back to Figma, you have like, this is the heading, this is the heading, and this is the body text. This is the hierarchy, because this one, explains more of what the heading is. This text here explains more of what the heading is all about. We did some wireframes here, right? This big box here is bigger than this one. So you see, they have like a certain hierarchy. Big, bigger, biggest, right? Small, smaller, smallest. That's what you mean by hierarchy in a sense. Moving on to contrast. Contrast means, more or less like, how would I put it? It's more or less like a differentiating factor. What makes something look different? They look more or less the same, but they are different in the layout. So you can have a contrast in specific layouts. Let me show you in Figma. Let me use a new frame again. Sorry, teaching all these things in during live classes, this is not usually very straightforward. So there is a box here, right? This is simply a box. I can add a new box inside of it and then give it a black color. They are both boxes, but there's a contrast there. This black inside of it, it's much, it shouts more than the other box here. So that's a contrast. If I dial this thing down, if I dial this box down to almost look the same, you can see the contrast is reducing. I can almost not see the box inside of it anymore because the contrast is very, very low. So if I want something to actually, call attention to someone, I want to increase the contrast to be very, very high. So let's take, for example, a text inside of this black text here. Let's say button, right? You can see this button here pops out of the black background because the contrast is high. The contrast between the black and white is high. If I take this text here and I bring it out, you can see the contrast is low because I can hardly see the text there. But if I change this text button to text to black, you can see the contrast is high. So that's what you call accessibility, because imagine somebody that probably has eye problem and maybe vision problem, and they are unable to see properly. Being able to, consider them during design is called accessibility. You are creating accessible design because I can go ahead to, let's say, have a green button. Let me see a green button and give it a very, very bright green here. I can give it a very bright green, and I come here to create, let's say, button color, right? If I bring it here, you can see it looks okay. There's nothing bad with this, but the contrast is very, very low because I can hardly see the white button. So you want there to be very sharp contrast, not so sharp, but at least it should be considerable in a way. Let me show you what accessibility means. Means in this case. There's a plugin in Figma that can be used to know whether this thing is accessible or not. Oh, you know what? Let's hold on that. It's going to waste our time, but you guys get what I mean by the contrast there. I can make a duplicate of this particular button and change this button here, button text here. I can change it to black. So you can already see which one looks much more, pronounced, and it's easy to see. You can see there by default. So, and it doesn't just apply to that alone. You can see from the contrast that we have there. You can see we can have like different circles. You can have different circles. And if I want one particular circle to maybe be pronounced, I can maybe reduce the shape of this particular one. This is also called a contrast because this particular shape looks different. You understand? It looks different. So, in your everyday life, you can be looking at buildings that look almost the same. And then there can be one very bright red building in between. That's called contrast in essence. So going back to our thing here, you can see this circle here. You can see this one has like zigzag around it. It's called contrast. You can see these are circles, normal circles. They are uniform in size, but there's not much contrast between them because they are like almost different colors. But this one has a contrast in the sense that you are putting some things around it that will make people see that, okay, I think I should pay more attention to this particular one that is in the middle. You understand? You can see these ones now. You can see the contrast there. So that's basically contrasting in practice. So contrast and emphasis, they are almost the same thing. You understand? So, emphasis is more or less like you are putting a specific attention in something. You can see this particular contrast now is not so pronounced because I can easily get lost in the multiple colors that are there. You understand? I can easily get lost because there is gray, so I might not even notice this one if maybe I'm just scrolling around and all like that. But if I have something like this, let's go to the Figma again. Let's take this one away. If I create, let's say, a big circle, right? And I make it black. Sorry for the cut. So, and I make this circle black. I can easily make, Emmanuel, can you guys see hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so
We can hear you. Yeah.
This black circle here, if I have like a small dot inside of it, and it's all red, and I make duplicates of this small dot, and I make this particular one white. This is called emphasis in essence, because there is contrast there. There is contrast going on. You can see all of these red dots here. They are they pop out, but I'm now adding emphasis on top of it. So you can have different principles inside of just one particular element. So it doesn't have to be just one. You can see in this circle here, you have contrasts. You also have emphasis, right? If I maybe create maybe add something like a triangle. Let's make this one green. Well, let's make it red so that it can be uniform. So you also have variety. So it is uniform in color, but not uniform in shape. So there is if I bring them together, you can see they have some kind of like unity going. Sorry guys, my microphone keeps switching between the internal one and the USB mic I'm using. So let's continue. So that's basically emphasis. But like I said, many of all these principles might not be practical. So that's why I'm trying to like show you guys how they are applied in the real world. So an emphasis can be something like this, you have a text here. I can place emphasis on this particular text in the middle here. I can make this one bold. Now you can see in this text, maybe I'm writing something and I want people to pay attention to that particular word. I can make it bold. You understand? That is called an emphasis. So it doesn't actually have to be about colors. You just have to be about, okay, are you able to make the person stop while they are reading this particular thing and notice that, okay, this particular one in bold should be giving more attention. You understand? So that's emphasis in practice. Moving on to scale and proportion. You want to be able to like combine different sizes and ratios and all like that. You understand? So I shouldn't dwell too much on this because we've talked about having like hierarchy and all like that. So it's almost the same thing. You have scale, and you want to like have like a uniform way of going about these things. But one exception, one thing you want to keep in mind when it comes to scale is that it is more of science than just drawing boxes. You understand? It is more of science than just drawing boxes. Now, what do I mean by that? If I create a new frame now, if I create a new frame, let me give it a feel. What's happening? Now, there's something called a grid. I can add a grid to this frame. Can you see this thing? This is called a grid. And it's made of boxes. I can change this grid to you see, the grid is 8 pixels. I can change it to, let's say, 12 pixels. So that means each of these boxes you are seeing here, they are all 12 pixels. That is 12 by 12. So that means 12 by 12. That's all these tiny boxes you can see here. I can change it to, let's say, 100. You can see these boxes. So this grid are meant to like guide the way you design. Logo designers will understand what this grid means because they can help your design look very uniform so that you don't have to do mathematics too much, so that you don't disturb yourself, because majority of these things are standardized. I don't want to draw too much on that, but let me just quickly show you what's it means in practice. So your heading can be something like 64, right? It can be 64. Your subheading can be, what is 64 divided by 2? That is 32, right? And you can call it, okay, it can be 32. The paragraph text can be 16 pixels. That is 32 divided by 2, that's 16, right? Now, this gives it proportion. It makes it more predictable so that you don't just randomly use any random font size you want on your UI. Take, in contrast, maybe this particular heading now, I made it like, let's say, this one, maybe 36. I made this particular subheading, I made it like, let's say 15. And I made this one, let's say 11. You can see it doesn't look so much, appealing in any way. And by the time you probably bring all of this together in an interface, it's going to look so weird and so amateurish. So that is why you want there to be proportion. So if you are paying attention, from 64, it goes to 32. From 32, it goes to 16, right? Now, you can look at it as a multiple of 4 or as a multiple of 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 8 is 64. So that means they are all multiples of 8. So that can be a guideline. So you can say, okay, I want my font to be multiples of 8 in all of these designs. So it's going to make your work look very uniform. So if I change this grid to, let's say, 8, now you will see that this heading here is going to align. It's going to take just about the certain amount of boxes that have set. But you won't see that because all these texts themselves, they have some extra paddings and some things that makes it weird and all like that. So it's only a box that can help us demonstrate that. If I draw a box, you can see these things are snapping to the grid. If I change this to 160 by 160, you can see if I count the number of boxes that are here, let me reduce it to, let's say, 80 by 80. I think 80 by 80 is much more easier to do. So if I count these boxes, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 boxes. So if I have, like, let's say a bigger box that is let's say 320 by 320. If I make this 320 and I make this one to 320. So that means I can fix this box. I can fix how many of these boxes into this 320 stuff. Let me see. If I duplicate this box and I bring it here, that's 4 boxes, right? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. If I duplicate all this and I bring it here, that's, you can see, if I bring it here, you can see, and if I bring it here, you see that it contains it perfectly. Like, without me having to be doing some maths, you can see I can easily just maybe turn this into some maybe checkers. Maybe this one is going to be, all of these ones here are going to be like white or something. If I want to maybe create like a checkers box or something like that, I can make these ones like something like that. Oh, sure. Because this is going to save you, a lot of time when it comes to designing. So that if you can nail these fundamentals right, if you can nail them right, it's going to be very easy for you to create designs because you understand the fundamentals. So you're no longer doing, you're no longer gambling around. So now you can see how easy it is just for me to just create this thing without having to maybe, come here and create a box and then try to be going around and be creating a box and then looking to see if it's going to fit, it's going to be too much of mental gymnastic. So that's why you want to conform with, precise sizes and scaling so that your work is going to be so uniform. Because if you are in the real world, you're going to be designing 50 plus screens for a mobile app, for a web app. You're going to be designing a lot of screens and they have to be uniform. And that's why you're going to be using all these things in your design system. So we've dwelled too much on this, but I just want you guys to understand that, because if you can be able to like keep that in mind, it's going to go a long way to, to help you, become a very good designer right from the start. I mean, from a first design, you can already see what's wrong almost immediately. All right, moving on to repetition. This one is just this, just what it means, repeating the same thing over and over again. Like, just, I can come here, like this box here. I can have like, let me just put it. Okay, let me just spoil this one. I can create a copy here. Then just make them random. I can decide to copy it here, copy it here, right? And then grab them, group this one too, and then duplicate it, bring it here. And then I can keep duplicating. I can carry these ones here. I can bring it here as it is like this. I can group it, bring it down again. I can duplicate it. So that's basically repetition. So if you want to maybe have the same pattern showing over and over again, you can maybe take that same approach. You understand? So, and then you can maybe make sure that some of them are like, you maybe emphasize some of them, like you have here, to give it some kind of contrast, So that's basically the principles of designs. And if you're able to like combine all this together, you're able to to uh to see how they conform with each other. Now, there are some other principles that we didn't talk about that are also very important, and that is relationship between elements. So let me quickly show you how things are related to each other. So when you look at this heading and this subheading and this thing here, they are all related to each other. This one, they are related to each other because they are all sharing the same information. Like they are all targeted towards the same information. So you cannot say this particular one, this top here and this one here, this one below here, they are not related. They might be on the same page, but they are not related. You understand? This one here, this one in the menu section here, all this thing here, they are all related to each other. There's the logo here and the menu items here, and then the button. But we can say that the items are in this button, they are more related to each other than the items, than this sign up and this logo. You understand? So it's just basic relationship. So you want there to be like enough space between things that are not so related to each other, but you want things that are related to each other to be a bit much closer. So to put that in practice, let's look at this thing we have here. Let me clear this thing. This one we have here. Let me duplicate it. Let me just duplicate. Sorry, I've had a lot of designs that are not usable. So let's start from scratch. Like you have here now, let's create a box. And then another box. Inside of this box, I can bring this particular heading and this one here. I can bring this one here. Yeah, that brings me to white space. So I'm also going to talk about white space next, so that you guys can know how to give something breathing room, because it's quite important. Sorry, my designs are going to be big and big, because if you guys are going to be watching it on a mobile phone, it has to be big. So that's why I'm not trying to make it too small. All right, so in these two different boxes, this heading and this one, they are related to each other. When you look at it, this one and this one, they're related to each other. So it also means that this one and this one, like all these two blocks we have here, they are related. So we can assume that this box here is a grandparent. There is an invisible box here. You guys remember our box model? There's an invisible box here, and there's also an invisible box here. So you want to bring elements that are of the same parents, you want to bring them closer to each other. And those ones that are not of the same parents, then you can maybe reduce the spacing between them so that it can be clear that these people are not of the same parents. But if I bring it too close, you can see they are invading each other's space and it's looking like they are choking each other. You can already see that it's looking like they are choking, and I can almost mistake both of them to be in the same. I can see them as maybe I'm reading a blog and then I've read a heading and that's it. But if I bring this one a bit down, you can see that it's looking like they are different. You understand? So that's one thing you want to like keep in mind. And also, this one, this box and this box, they are different too. So that means there has to be a little bit of space in between them to show that they are not of the same family. You understand? So I can have like a mega heading here. So this heading can be very big. It can be like these are my children. So this big heading now shows that, okay, this particular information that is below, you know, they are for this particular heading. If I want to go ahead to duplicate this again, I have to make sure that there's enough space. Sorry. There is enough space between them so that I can differentiate between this big block here and this big block here, or else I'm going to confuse them with each other. You understand? So you want to bring elements that are related to each other. You want to bring them closer to each other. But it doesn't mean that the spaces between them should be too close. You also want to be considerate with it. If I go back to let me take for instance PayPal. Yeah, you can see in this PayPal menu dashboard here, you have PayPal logo, you have the menu, and you have this login and sign up. You can see that the space between this menu here and this logo is very wide, but it doesn't change the fact that they are of the same parents. They are all housed in the same box, but because they are of different information, you want there to be considerable space in between them so that I can differentiate that, okay, this particular one is a menu, this ones they are bought in, and that's why they are together, because they are of the same parents and they are doing almost the same function. You understand? So they need to be closer to each other. If I take login button now and I put it somewhere around here, maybe just after this person now, it doesn't make sense because login and sign up, they are almost doing the same function. Like login is to log into the site, sign up is to sign up as a user. So they should be together, right? So that is why you want elements. See this heading here. PayPal is for everyone who pays online. This is the heading. And then you have an icon and a small heading, and you can see these ones here. You can see these ones here. They are of the same family. You can see, so the spaces between them are almost the same. And that's what brings you back to uniformity. You want there to be considerable similar number of spaces. So if I go back to my Figma now, and I go back to my Figma and I show you the heading, so you want to make sure that the space between this heading and this one is the same. The space between this heading and this one is the same. So that's what means that's what I mean by uniformity. Also, the alignment between this and this. If I look at this spacing between this one and this one now, let me look at this space. You can see it's about 127. You can see this thing there is 127. That's the space between this bounding box and this heading. If I come here, you can see that the space is not the same. So they are not uniform. This one is 163. This one is 127. That is non-uniformity. So you want to make sure that they are of the same space. I can check the space between this paragraph here and this one. You can see it's 27. This one and this one is 27. You can see it's uniform. I can check the space between this heading and this one. It is 88. So now one thing you can now do to make sure that you don't confuse them to each other is to now go back to our pixel. What I said, you want it to be a multiple of something. It can be a multiple of 8. It can be a multiple of 4. But usually 8 is like the ideal standard because 8 is like the more or less like conforms to like the golden ratio. That is more something that you can try to like find out more by yourself. So using multiples of 8 is going to make your design much more cohesive and look more uniform. So I can make the font 32 pixels. and make the heading 64 and make sure that the spacing between them is like maybe 32. You can see it's a bit kind of like too much. I can make sure that it's 84, 24. It is multiples of 8. I can bring this heading here. I can bring it closer so that it is multiples of 8. I can say the space between these two children here that are in the same box, I can group them together. And then say, okay, the space between them and that bounding box should be, let me say, should be 80. 80 is multiples of 8. I can say the space to the top, that is 82. You can see here, to the top is 80, beside this is 80. I can reduce this box here to make sure that it is about 82. So you can see it is 80 on all sides. So that makes it extremely perfect. You understand? So it looks beautiful and so well, so well done. I can bring this box here. I can bring it down. You can see, if I look at the space between them, you can see this, from this one to the down is 89. But there's something called white space. So that brings me to white space. White space is, it is more or less like you letting your design breathe. So you want to ignore every form of, everything I've said and just break the rules of design by leaving extraordinarily amount of white space just for your design to breathe. Because if I look at this box here, you can see that the space there looks a bit too choked. I don't like that, but it still looks good. But white space means anything that that lets you look at this. This is the heading, and this all the spaces around this particular thing is called the white space. And not a bit disorganized and all, but it is what it is. If I increase the size of this one here, and I bring all the elements here, and I bring it here, you can see this does not follow all the rules I've said. The space between here and there is like about 222. This one's about 342. But this is called a white space because I'm just giving it room to breathe. You understand? So it's going to look a bit more beautiful, but you won't understand what white space gives you in design until you design more and more screens, and then you can see the function of the white space. I can now have a frame here that is white, and I can decide to write let's say this is my heading, and I give it an extraordinarily amount large size. Let me reduce it. It's too big. The line height is too wide because it looks weird and all. So I can reduce the line height to reduce the line height. I can make it more bold. I can still reduce the font size because it's too big. Then I can position it around here. So let's say I'm building, let's say a presentation. I can say this is my heading. And then let's say blog topics. So now you can see now, there is no other design here. There's nothing else I'm putting here besides just this is my heading. And then I'm moving to the next slide. Now, everything you have here is called a white space because it makes it look empty, but at the same time look beautiful. You understand? When you go back to this paper, all you see here is called a white space. So it is called white, not because it is called white, not because it's colored white. It is called white because it's empty space, but we call it white space. So it can be any color. It can be blue. All what you have here is called the white space. You can see the space between this heading here and this one is wide. It's called a white space. But you are giving it a white space because you want to show distinction between this one and this one, so that this one is standing alone as the heading, and then you have like these ones that are like kind of combined together. So basically that's white space. So we've talked, in depth about design principles, and I hope you guys are able to like catch one or two. Although I'm going to link to all these resources so that you can catch up into to learn what they are all about, and maybe learn more about them. Yes, so so that's it about the principles of design. Let's go back to our slide. Now, all the things I've talked about so far, they are more or less like, okay, understanding, design at its core. When you look at a website, you can already figure out what is wrong with the site. You can know whether the site is abiding by, the best principles, or whether it needs some work to be done. You understand? But there is a methodology you want to go about if you want to actually start a design from scratch. Let's say a client comes to you and then they ask you to build a mobile app, or maybe they want you to create a web page, something like that. There's how you go about so that you don't repeat yourself. Imagine you're going to be designing 50 pages. You don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's why we introduced a concept called atomic design. So you want to take that approach into your designs so that you can be using the same thing over and over again. You understand? So atomic design methodology is like the building blocks for making cool stuff on the internet. Just like how atoms make up everything around us. If you've done chemistry back in secondary school, or you've done biology, humans, we are made up of cells. But in physics, everything around you is made up of atoms. You understand? Atoms is the smallest unit. It's the smallest unit of anything physics. Then from atoms, we have molecules. A group of atoms forms molecules. Now, a group of molecules forms organisms. Now, a group of organisms forms a system. So now, taking that approach to UI design, I want you guys to now tell me, what are the things I've talked about so far that are atoms? Let me know in the comments, in the chats, the things I've talked about so far that sound like, okay, these things are atoms. I can see frames, color, hierarchy, white space, contrast. Boxes, pixel. So I can see the angle you guys are coming from. Okay. Typography. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's continue. I can see the angle you guys are coming from. So all of these things, some of them can actually be considered atoms, but in UI design, we want there to be like a building block approach to look at it. Now let's look at a live web page, and let's deconstruct the page just to see, what is what are the atoms, the molecules, the organisms, and the system. So let's look at which one. Let's look at this linear. What you see here, the entire web page itself is a system. The web page itself, what you load is a system, because it's a combination of many things. Now, if the web page is a system, what do you think is the organism? Looking at our slide, you can see the web page is a system. What do you guys think is the organism? So let's reverse it backward. Let me know in the chats. What do you guys think is the organism? If the web page is a system, what do you guys think is the organism? Okay, some of you guys said typography. That's not really an organism, because typography is still, yeah, the parent frames and boxes. Rukoya actually got it right. It is the parent frames, because when you look at the web page, the boxes you are seeing there are the organisms, because you are seeing if there's an invisible box here. This is an organism. This is an organism, right? This is an organism. This section here is an organism. So those things that you see, those sections, they are all organisms. Now, if these boxes are organisms, what is the, or let me say, what are the molecules? What are the molecules? Let's look at this web page. If the web page is a system, and the boxes you have here, like the navigation bar, this section here, and this one, and they are the organism. What are the molecules? Let me know in the chats, guys. So the molecule is still something that is still housing something. And when you go down, then you can still see Bex the Bass ABB frames. That's funny. The children boxes. Yeah, something like that. So they are like the boxes that are inside. So, but because we're not looking at it from the box approach is different from the atomic design we're looking at. The atomic design is considering the elements. If the web page is the system and the sections are the organisms, the molecules are going to be something like the buttons, because inside of the button, you have the typography, you have the texts. Yeah, a logo can also be considered as a molecule, because inside of the logo, you have the text and you also have the logo mark. That's a molecule. Icons are atoms, because they are individual elements. So let's go to Figma and quickly just examine that and quickly look at so all these things you have here, these things here, so this first class is more or less like a test run, because so our next class is going to be a bit much more organized, at least when it comes to this whole Figma walkthrough everything. So when you look at this heading, this text here, this is the typography, like we talked about. They are the fonts, right? And then we can examine the colors too. So we can have like a, just bear with me. I'm going to quickly do one or two stuff here. We can have red. So everything has to be big too, so that mobile users can see them properly. All right. So what you have here is they are atoms. The typography here, they are atoms because the typography cannot go one level further. So far, it can't go one level further. It's an atom. Your icons also too, like Bex said, they are also atoms too, because in your icon, you can't go one level further. You can't go one level down. So that's why it is called an atom. But then, if you now combine, let's say a button, you take a button like this, you take a frame, you give it a feel. Let's give it a black feel, right? And then I put text inside of it. Now, it is no longer an atom. It is now a molecule because it is a combination of two different elements, right? The button text itself is an atom. The frame itself is an atom. So combining them together, they are a molecule. You understand? They are a molecule. And then you can now combine multiple molecules to form an organism. If I now take this button, this heading, and this text, I take them all together, and then I make a copy. Let me make a copy of this button too. And then I create a new frame, and then I house them. I put them together in one frame. And I give that frame a feel, right? This frame you have here is an organism. You understand? Because now you are having a combination of molecules, sorry, atoms, that is text, with this is a molecule. And then when you combine these ones together, this one too is an atom, you know, and then you house them all together, it has now formed an organism. Because from this organism, I have a molecule, and from this molecule, I have an atom. So this is a section. We call it a section in the website. In our next class, now that's next week, I'm going to go all in Figma so that you guys can have an idea of how everything works. So to reiterate, the color itself is an atom, because when you look at this button here, it's a combination of the frame, the color, and the typography, and they form a molecule. And then when you combine them together and put them into a box, or group them together, it has become an organism. And then when you have multiple of all these organisms, they now form a system. So now then you can now have multiple of something like this. Sorry, multiples of something like this section to form the complete website. That's the complete web page. You understand? So that's basically it. So taking that approach, you are able to start from scratch. You are able to start with the typography, for maybe a client comes to you and be like, okay, we are a baby clothing website, and this is what we do, and all like that. And then you feel like, okay, baby clothing website, the colors, I think the color should be pink, because I think babies are associated with warm color, or some warm color, something like that. And I can use something like that, maybe combined with maybe um, um, gold or something like that, just want to come up with, those atoms. And then for a baby clothing website, you actually want to use maybe a font, a font that is not so formal. So it has to be like a sans serif font. You understand? So when you look at the different fonts we have, you can see that the fonts are changing. So you want to use maybe a font that is playful and can be used for a baby clothing site. You understand? So you can play around different fonts. You can see this is Eden. This looks playful. It looks childish in a way. You understand? So you are playing around the tool to like figure out what's going to be your best atoms. Then you create your colors. Then you go ahead um to pick your phone, your what's it called? Your icons. You understand? And creating all these things in the beginning is how you come up with what we call a design system. Design system. So a design system is more or less like that thing that you want to use as a foundation of your entire design. So if you change something, let's say maybe after design like about 50 pages, and then you come back to your atoms. So let's say you change this particular font to, let's say you change it to let's say something like this one. You want all of your designs to change because you don't want to be going back and be changing them one by one. That's going to be stressful for you. So that's why you want to define your atoms very early. So that's why it's always good to like have a document that will be dedicated to all of your atoms. And then you want to make a duplicate to create your molecules. Now combine these fonts, combine the colors together to create a sample button. So you can now change this button into something like a component. So in the real world, we call them like, okay, these are the tokens. The atoms are called your tokens. You understand? Then from your tokens, they turn to components. So from this, let me quickly write it out for you guys. Because you don't call them atoms and molecules in the real world, though. They're going to sound weird if you are calling it like that to your clients. So design tokens. If you're working with a developer, you send them all these things like, okay, maybe the developer said, okay, what is your font size? These are called design tokens. That is your atoms. Hmm. Okay, know what's happening. So your design token, what's happening? This thing is weird. Anyway, I don't want to waste too much time. So your design token are like the atoms. So you want to, I've done a lot of weird stuff here. So that's why this thing is acting up. Your um your molecules are your components because you want to combine. This thing is all messed up. You guys should. And then you have your, what's it called? Your organisms, right? The organisms are now the sections. Because when you combine different organisms, maybe you have something like this. So two different organisms can still make an organism. You understand? So you can still have like two different organisms beside each other. They still make an organism. You understand? Uh, and then from organism and sections, and then you now go to the system, which is like the templates. So we call them templates. So atoms, I've mixed them together. So it should be atoms here. And then it should be design tokens here. So now you have design tokens, you have components, you have sections, and you have templates. So that's the mental approach you use to look at it. And then you have like design systems. So you create a design system, which you are still going to like examine in week 3, where we like, create a design system. So there's a lot to do with Figma itself. But so far we've been theoretical because you guys need to like understand the foundation of design itself before we start, working on the tool. You can learn how Figma works in 2 hours maximum if you know what you are doing, because it's not that complicated. But understanding the core principles of design is what actually takes time. So you want to be able to understand it at its core so that you can start designing like a pro from a first project. So that's it about the atomic design methodology. That's like an approach you want to use when you are, designing. We've done that already. So intro to Figma. So let me just quickly take you guys, through Figma itself, and let's just look at Figma, as a basic overview. As a basic overview. So we've walked around Figma. I know some of you guys probably, have used Figma before, so it might feel a bit redundant, but for some of you guys that probably have not used Figma, so just pay attention. Now, when you log into Figma, you can be faced with a white interface. This is the dark mode. It also has a white interface. I've always been using the dark mode. I'm not sure whether they've even removed the white interface and all. So it's possible you might be faced with the white interface, but you can choose to change it to the dark mode. Now, the section you have here, Emmanuel, can you guys still see my screen? Emmanuel, are you there? Hello? Okay, awesome. All right, so the toolbar here, this is what you call the toolbar, because this is where you are going to be interacting with the most. You can see you have the file and so many things like that you can interact with. It's just a lot. You have the move tool, the scale. I'm still going to go ahead to quickly show you guys what they all do. But this is called your toolbar. Now here, you have the layers panel. This section here, you have the layers panel. You can see that's where you have it should be this one here. Not this one. You have the layers panel. You can see. So by this section here, this one here in the right is a properties panel. And the one in the center, this is my work area here. It's called the canvas. So if I create a new page here, where I'm working here now is a canvas. So I can go ahead to go and create a frame. So a frame is basically the dimension of the screen that you want to create for. So if I want to create for, let's say, a MacBook or something like that, I'm going to create a frame that will be of that size. You can see a desktop. You can see a MacBook Air, a MacBook Pro, a desktop here. You can see a TV. I can create for a desktop. I click on it and then it gives me a frame that I can work with. You understand? So I can also create a frame for a tablet. You can see an iPad Pro. You can see there. Then you can also go ahead to create a frame for an iPhone 15 or 14 Pro Max. You can see. So as a UI designer, you want to create for each of these screen sizes so that the developer can be able to know, how it's going to look in all of those interfaces. So that's for you. That's frames for you. So let's quickly look at each of these tools and what they do. This one that has like a sending tool, more like a Telegram kind of logo, it's called the move tool. So if I create, let's say, a new frame inside of this frame, so know that you can create a frame inside of a frame. But the reason why we use frame a lot is for a certain reason called auto layouts. In the advanced, more or less the advanced, it's not so advanced. We'll say maybe intermediate, because you need to know how to use auto layout as soon as possible. So you can have a frame inside of a frame, but you can see the move tool is the one you use to move your thing around. You can move it around, right? And then under the move tool, you have a scale. That scale, you can see the V and K. These are the shortcuts that are beside it. So if I click on this keyboard and I press K, you can see that it changes to, if I change to V, if I press V on my keyboard, I press V, you see, and I change to K, you can see showing this scale button here. So scale basically means that you can see this thing here. It's called the scale. So what the scale does is, if I change it back to the move tool and I try to increase the size of this thing, you can see it's increasing randomly. You understand? What you can use to actually note a scale is actually, let's say, text. That will make you understand what a scale does. If I try to increase this text now, if I increase this using this normal thing here, you can see it's not doing anything. It's squishing it down. It's squishing it down. But if I use a scale tool, it's going to adjust it proportionately. You see, it's increasing its increasing dimension. So I can have, let's say, this kind of organism I have here. This organism here. Let me use this one. Where is it? This organism here. If I try to increase this thing here, let me use my V. You can see it's not doing anything. But if I use my scale tool, it's going to increase everything inside proportionately, like everything inside, instead of you having to maybe do them manually yourself. So that's basically what the scale does. So let's move on. The frame, I've talked about the frame. The section is also something given by used by Figma, like something you can use to maybe out some particular section of your frames and all like that. So you can have a frame inside of this section here. You understand? But usually you want to maybe ignore it and all. So the section is not usually used a lot. The slice tool is just to like slice some section of your particular frame. So you're going to be using the frame 99.9% of the time. So these other tools are not really so useful. But you're going to be using this one. You have the circle, the rectangle, the line, the arrow, the ellipse, and the polygon, the star, and to place image. So that's what these ones are for. Let me delete this section. So that's what these shapes are for. So very easy. Just click on any one of them, then drag. You can see if you click on this frame and you click, it's going to show you the smallest version, and then you can increase the size if you want. You can see. So that's what the tool does. Here you have your pen tool. The pen tool is just to draw some custom shapes that cannot be done by, let's say, maybe any shape that you cannot find here, that you cannot find in the, what's it called, these shapes here. So you can create your own custom shape. Let's say I want to create my own custom circle now. I can maybe come to my pen tool and drag, something like that, and drag and drag. That's a very awful circle. It's a very awful one, bro. So using a pen tool, especially if you're maybe an illustrator and all like that, you can maybe use it to, like, shape so many things and all like that. So you can join it back here, and then you can come back here and then adjust this thing here. So you can work with the pen tool. So the pen tool is a skill on its own. It's something you have to maybe sit down to work on. But for Figma and for user interface design, there are a lot of tools out there that you can use to create all these kind of random shapes without having to use a pen tool, I can send some of those resources in the NDZ forum. So for you guys to maybe check out. What again? The text, pretty straightforward. The components, plugins, and widgets. When you see something like this is a components. I'm still going to show you guys, in maybe third week, how components works, how you can have different libraries, plugins. You can use different plugins for different things. You can use a plugin to remove the background of an image. You can have icons. If I click on this iconify, instead of me having to find icons online, there's an icon in Figma that you can use to import a lot of different icons, like open source icons that are really nice. Some plugins can have a problem loading, so you have to maybe click them twice. I don't know. So you can see loading iconify. So you can import a lot of different plugins. This hand icon here is just to move things around. You can use it to move. So when you click on it, and a shortcut around this is to click on your space bar and then drag your mouse instead of having to come here. So wherever you are on Figma dashboard, just hold your space bar and then drag around. So it's very simple. This is the comments. So this one is for collaboration. So in case maybe you're working with a team and you want to maybe make a comment on a particular stuff here, you can just click on the comments and then say, I don't like this, something like this. That's funny. I don't like this. So it's pretty straightforward. And then you can mark it as resolved, something like that. So that's it. That's the toolbar for you. This Figma icon here is more or less like your quick actions. You can create a new file. See, iconify is just loading since morning. Maybe because I'm on a meeting. So you can easily have a lot of different icons. If I click on this particular icon and I say import icon, the icon is going to be imported on the page. You can see this is the icon here. So it makes it very, very easy for me to work instead of having to be going online and all. So it's so easy to. In fact, I can get open source images too on Unsplash. If I load Unsplash, I can check out different images on Unsplash too. So it makes it fun. You can see I can search a lot of images directly in Figma and import them to my design without having to leave. I can also remove the background of those images too with these plugins. So that is the toolbar for you. So now the layers panel, which is this one here. The layers panel, that is this one here. Let me close this one. So when I click on this one, you can see it's showing that I'm on this particular layer, this iPhone 14 one. It's showing that I'm on this iPhone 14. If I click on this one, it's showing that I'm on this one. If I click on this, it's showing that I'm on desktop one. I can go ahead to rename it to whatever I want. I can say this one is my home page, or let me say home desktop. Enter. Then come here again. See, this one is for home tablets. Enter. You can see it's changing here. I can also change the name here. It's not the same. Let me try it. Mobile. Because I don't change names there. Oh, home mobile. Yeah, it changes. So you can also change it here. But usually I change it here. And yeah, that's just it. So, and then that's for the layers panel. So now one thing is every layer is like their own box, it's like their own environment. So if you are creating, let's say, an element, let's say I want to create a circle now or a box. The box has to be inside a particular layer. If I put it outside of here in this canvas, so it's in the canvas now. You can see this rectangle now is outside. You can see it's outside. But if I want it to be inside of this frame, I have to bring it inside. You can see it's under it. So if I drop it down, you can see this rectangle is inside this desktop. If I drag this rectangle here and I bring it inside this tablet, you can see it's inside. So it shows us it's inside. I can also drag it around like this. You can see. So every frame has their own elements. So I can have multiple elements here. You understand? So the reason why I said you guys should conform with say a maybe like 8 pixel thing is that when you're designing, it is very easy for you as a newbie to get tricked. Let's say maybe I say this is my heading. I think it's the font I'm using. That's the problem. Because this thing has been acting very weird since morning. Anyway, let me change this to all right. So it is very easy for you as a beginner to get tricked because what you can see now is not exactly how it's going to look on the live version of the site. So because you can see properly now, the size of this heading is about 117 pixels. That's extremely big. On any website, it's going to look so big. Let me show you guys how it's going to look. If I click on this frame, I can come here. This play button here means I want to see how it's going to look on a website. This class is running to almost 3 hours. That's crazy. So you can see how big it is. You see, it's very, very big. Even the website we visited, you can see their heading is not even that big. If I use my font selector here, you can see it says it is about you see 80 pixels. This particular heading here is it's 80 pixels. So that means this heading I'm using here is extremely big. It's too big. That's why you want to conform with a uniform design. It should be 64. So you should not bother about how it looks. You want to actually, preview it to see how it's going to look to the user on the other end. If I try to like create a paragraph text here and I make it 16 pixels, you see that it's going to be very tiny. You can almost not see it. But so that's why you want to zoom in so that you can see how it's going to properly look. Don't design like this. Don't be designing like this. You want to zoom in. Just trust that it's going to look good. Make sure that you conform because the average body text is 16 pixels, and that's how it is on almost all devices. So if I preview it now, you can see how it looks. It looks readable. I can still read it very well. You understand? So that's one very little thing I needed to quickly tell you guys because most beginners fall into that trap and their design look very horrible one. So that's it with the layers panel, and then we have the properties panel. So whenever you create anything, like let's say a rectangle inside a frame, you are going to be interacting a lot with these tools. You can see this fill means that you want to actually put color inside of this container here. I can make it a different color here. We talked about Xcode. I can change it to RGB. I can change it to HSL. I can change it to HSB. HSB is I think blackness or maybe I think yeah, maybe black or something like that. Let's quickly check the meaning of HSB. Oh, that's not what I'm expecting to see. It's brightness. Yeah, it's brightness actually. So HSB is brightness. So that's to let you understand that even when you can be designing for a very long time and still you might not interact with a lot of things because usually your RGB, sorry, your Xcode is going to be more than enough. Most like 90% of the time you're going to be working with your Xcode. That's why it's like default color stuff there. You understand? So that's your properties panel. You can see that's the fill. You can fill the container with color. You can also add a stroke. A stroke means that border that is around the thing. I can make it like 3 pixels. 3 pixels. You understand? I can make it anything. I can add an effect to it. I can make it give it a drop shadow and so many things like that. So that's the layers panel. And then you have your export and all like that. So next week we're going to dive deep into Figma and how it works, and then create like a web page and also a mobile page. And also let's not dwell too much on that. And yeah, so that pretty much sums up Figma at its basic stage. We are going to dive deep into the properties panel and how it works, because there's a lot of things for you guys to learn regarding that. So let's quickly rush through the slides so that we don't spend more time than needed. So the next phase is the UX design. We've talked about UI design as user interface design and how it helps show what a website is meant to look like. But the UX design process is more or less like the user experience side, when you want to like improve the experience of the user while using that particular site you've designed. So there are different aspects to look at. Looking at the business goals, you want to do UX research, and you want to design for users, and you also want to do usability testing. So I'm going to quickly brush through this. Definitely on our third week, we are going to go deep into UX design because it's very, very important. But let's quickly go through UX design and what is all about and how it impacts your design process. So business first it is about understanding what the company wants to achieve and making sure the design helps them reach those goals. So before you pick your mouse to start designing on Figma, you want to understand the business goals. And the reason I'm saying this is because you might want to be a freelancer or an independent or a contractor for agencies, basically. So you want to take the time to understand the goals of the clients. Are they looking to increase engagement? Are they looking to increase conversions and all like that? So you want to understand that. So that's going to shape your approach when it comes to design. That's why I said, like, when you look at all the designs on Dribble, they don't accurately represent how design is outside there. Most clients are going to be okay with very boring designs because what they need is just sales. They don't need the fanciness or looking so beautiful and all like that. That's why you want to nail the basics. Understand that, okay, this is the best approach to design. You understand? So the creative limits is infinite. So the next one is UX research. It is like being a detective. You are searching for clues to understand what users really want and need. It is not just about guessing or assuming. It's about asking the right questions and listening carefully to what users say and do. So, like I said, we're going to talk about this in depth in week 3. That's the third week. Next week, we're going to go in depth into Figma and how it works. The upper week is going to be UX research. So you want to know the process of, okay, gathering questions, creating your user flow, creating your persona, your journey map, and so many of those things that's going to inform your design process, so that you don't just carry your mouse and start drawing boxes all around. You want to have an idea of what the user really wants based on your research. So design for users. So even with all of those business goals of the customers, you also want to create digital experiences that are not just fun, but also easy and enjoyable to use. So no matter how much your clients want you to cram a lot of text inside the page so that they can pass their message, you also want to like design for users so that the sites can be accessible. The color combo is not something that's going to be off-putting to the user, because some clients can maybe like some weird color combinations. So you have to like educate them so that they can know that, okay, this particular color combination is not accessible. And what I mean by accessible is the contrast that we talked about. You want the contrast between your colors to match a particular what's it called? Let me quickly show you guys what accessibility means. So there's a plugin A11Y. This is a color contrast checker. it only works on frames. So I have to create a new frame here. All right, so let's fire on the plugin again. So click on this and check. You can see. You can see it's telling us that, okay, this thing is not totally compliant. But if I duplicate this button and I probably make this one black, and I check the contrast again, you see, it says amazing. Because the contrast between this text is very, very sharp. Because there are some users that are color blind. They might not be able to see the differences between this color. They might look the same. In fact, someone that is color blind might not be able to see this particular thing. That's why in this we use we use green and black, and because the contrast needs to be very high, so that it has to be something like this. So that if I want to check the contrast, you see, it says amazing. You understand? So that's the contrast we use at NDZ. So you want your design to be accessible. You understand? You want it to be accessible. So these are the things that, being a UX engineer, or sorry, being a UX designer is going to help you see. So lastly, usability testing. No matter what you've created, no matter how beautiful and how well designed and how well thought out it is, you still want to, put these digital products into the hands of real users to see how they use it. So you want to have a small, beta testing, where you have a small group of people to test the app, to see how it works, and to see whether it is usable. You understand? There are so many companies that do user testing. You understand? So by seeing the user, how they are using it in real time, and seeing the frustration and the things they are encountering, you can now go back to your design and now work on them. You understand? So that's why usability testing is the last thing you do, but it is not just the last thing. You have to do it over and over again. Continue doing it until there are minimal blockers in your apps. You understand? So that sums up our lesson today. So now I want to give you guys your first assignment. So this is going to be based on what we've talked about throughout this class. So you want to find one website and one mobile app. So just find a random site online that you like, and then take a screenshot of that page, or it can be the home page, it can be any page on that website. Now annotate how the boxes are grouped together using the Miro app. Now this is the Miro app. You come here, you download Miro.com. I'm going to send these links to the channel. You download Miro app, you upload, you make a screenshots, then you upload your screenshots, right? You upload the screenshots, and then when the image is here, then you want to come here, come to these what's it called? These shapes here, and then you want to draw out every box that you can find in that particular site. Every single box, to draw them out. So give it a the bounding box should be green, or any color you want. So you want to annotate all the boxes you can find on that particular screenshot or page or mobile app. So you do that for two screens. That is one website and one mobile app. And then you share your Miro link on the NDZ platform. I'm going to create a discussion, and then you can share your Miro link, and then you can see. So you can use just one Miro board. You can see Miro board works more or less like Figma too. So you can have your Miro board here, and have everything together. So you group them together, you can move them here. So, and then continue working it. Yeah, so that just one mirror board, and then you go ahead to share the board. Where is it? So go ahead to share the board, and that's it. Anyone with the link, make it that anyone with the link can view it. Then copy the board link, and then you can share it with us in the community. The second assignment is audit Y Combinator news sites and suggest changes based on some of the 12 principles of design we've talked about. So based on the principles of design that we've talked about, so this Y Combinator sites, you see, is very boring. So I want you to like make suggestion on how this can be improved when it comes to the principles of design we talked about, whether when it comes to the contrast, the grouping of them together, the white space, and all like that. So you do that. Okay, Francis. Yeah, we'll try our best to see if we can edit this thing and share. So look at these Y Combinator sites and make suggestions on how it can be improved based on the 12 principles of designs. So that's it for today's class. If you are still here since the beginning of the class, I want to say a very big thank you and also well done, because it is not easy to sit down for 3 hours to listen to a lecture. So you guys should let me know if you have any questions so far in everything we've discussed from the beginning to the end. So let's quickly take questions for like about 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So if you have any questions based on what we've talked about. So if you don't have any other question, you can ask your question in the forum. So just create a discussion and ask your question away. So I will try my best to reply as soon as I can. Pixel. I didn't say anything about pixel. Okay. Okay. Pixel. What I meant by pixel is the 8 by 8 pixel. I knew I talk about the sizes of something, because pixel is a unit of measurement. When you look at this thing now, you can see 270 by 193. That's the unit of measurement. So 270 pixel by 193 pixel. So in UI design, pixel is like the general form of measurement. You are submitting the assignment on the forum. So go to ndz.ng. Let me put it in the chat. Go to ndz.ng. I'm going to create a discussion immediately after this call so that you guys can submit your assignments. If not immediately, it's going to be tomorrow morning or Monday morning. That's how we've been doing it. So, but you can continue with the assignments. So, yeah, as I was saying, pixel just means a unit of measurement, 270 pixel by 193. So, yeah, so I talked about using a scale of 8 and 4. What I meant by that is that, let's say you have a typography here, that's a font, a text here. This one is, let's say this one is 64. You want to use the multiples of 8 to decide what's going to be the next one. So it can be, this one can be 32. The next one can be 16. You understand? So you can see this one is 16 pixels. This one is 32 pixels. This one is 64 pixels. And they are multiples of 8. So you can decide to use multiples of 4. You understand? I can decide to make this one instead of let me remove this one. So No, a picture cannot be designed on Figma, but you can still try to imitate Photoshop in a way by doing some small manipulation. But you cannot design a picture in Figma. You need to use Photoshop to edit stuff. But the thing is, the beauty of UI design is that you don't need to know all these things. You don't need to know how to use Photoshop. You can edit your image, simply in one or two ways. If we have the time, maybe later, maybe after the bootcamp, I can drop one or two tricks on how you can manipulate images in Figma. But it's kind of beyond the scope of this course. You can use your pen tool to remove the background of an image in Figma, yes, by using subtract and stuff. Let me show you how subtraction works. If you look at subtraction here, and maybe you have another box here, I can subtract this box from this one by using this thing and coming here and subtracting. You can see it has removed that particular section. So it's a way for you to like manipulate shapes. I can have like a box here. I can have like, let's say, an ellipse here. It can be here. Let me see, where's the box? It can be here. And I can group all of them and say subtract. You can see. So it's a very good way for you to like manipulate different shapes and all. So you can also even do that for images, so, to manipulate images, to remove the background. Let's say I have like if I have a random image, let me try to see if Unsplash can work there. So this is a random image, right? The kind of manipulation you can do so far on Figma is like I said, you can remove the background. You can also use this custom color stuff. You can see exposure. You can increase the exposure. You can see you can increase and decrease it. You can decrease the contrast. You can increase the temperature. You can do tint and the like. So it's a way for you to like maybe change the state of the images. So these are like the simple things you can do with stuff. You can also clip it inside maybe a particular shape. I can create, let's say, maybe a circle now and put this image inside of it. You understand? Let me bring this image up. I can use as mask. You understand? More or less like all those things that you do in Photoshop. You can mask it inside of it. These are the things you can do. So these are little things you can do inside of Figma. But they are very, very helpful there. If you know how to be creative with all these things, you will most definitely not need Photoshop for anything. So yeah, that's it. You guys have any other question? So if there are no other questions, you guys should join our WhatsApp group, updates group where we drop updates. Oyi, if you are still there, please just send the WhatsApp channel group to the Telegram channel, and I'm going to open the discussion in the channel. So you guys should please, in the updates group, write your experience of this call, what you guys think, your feedback, so that we can apply it in our next call, because it's kind of very important. So just say my feedback of the call is something like this, and this. Please, I would deeply appreciate it, because we really need a lot of feedback. First bootcamp, people were kind of hesitant in a way to leave feedbacks, but they go a long way to help us a lot. You understand? So please drop the channel link to the Telegram channel so that people can join, and then they can leave their feedback of this call. And if you have any other question, just go on NDZ group and start the conversation, and then we can go from there. Yeah, so it was really awesome having this meeting with you guys. I hope next week we're able to like go deep into Figma design, and then we play around. I promise it's going to be much more organized because I see that the Figma part of things is for me is a bit here and there. Yeah, but it's acceptable because it's a live class. So I'm to probably sit down and just record it and train it and all like that. It's going to be more polished than that. But it's all good. So we're going to send the recording of this call maybe on Monday. But I can't guarantee because I don't know how fast Emmanuel can work on it and send it to you guys. So but as soon as it's ready, I'm going to send it to you to the NDZ of this group so that you guys can watch it on YouTube. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So once again, you guys should please go on the WhatsApp group and let us know what you think about the class and what you think can be done to improve it. Yeah. So let me just go. I stop sharing my screen and also